Ryzen has been out for a while now, but I am finally super stoked because I'm getting to work with it today. That's right, we're building a Ryzen gaming PC, and it's basically going to be a sweet spot price to performance kind of deal. So let's get straight into it. Roll the intro. A friend of mine recently got a new job and they wanted to spend their first paycheck on a brand new gaming PC. Up until now they've been gaming on their laptop, and it's not even a gaming laptop. I'm pretty sure they've just been using the integrated graphics on their CPU, which, as you can imagine, isn't the best experience, and it couldn't even run all of the games they wanted to play. So they asked me to spec and build them a gaming PC, and I was over the moon because I knew exactly what it meant. It meant Ryzen, because unless you're looking to spend a hell of a lot of money on a gaming PC, or funnily enough, not very much money at all on a gaming PC, then Ryzen just makes a hell of a lot of sense right now, and I could not wait to get hands-on with it. We bought all of the parts over a 2 or 3 week period, I think, and I'd say that's probably the minimum amount of time you want to spend looking for all of your components, because you want to be able to pick them up when they go on offer or are slightly less in certain websites. We also picked up all of the parts basically at the beginning of the mining craze we have at the moment. We were originally looking at RX 580s or 570s, but they all went out of stock, and whenever they were in stock they were overpriced. And it was at that point I realized that we needed to pull the trigger on a GTX 1060 quick, because prices and stock were just going to get wrecked by the mining craze. So fortunately we didn't get too ripped off on these components, but I'll talk about that more in the full spec, which I guess we can start now. The CPU, like I said, is a Ryzen 5 1400. If I was going to build this again, I might go with the Ryzen 3 processors that don't have hyper-threading. So they're just 4 cores and don't have 8 threads, because you save a fair bit of money and it's not really going to affect your gaming performance that much. But I actually bought these before Ryzen 3 came out, and I got it for £147 off of Aria PC. Talking of motherboards, the motherboard we went for is the ASUS Prime B350 Plus. I went with this motherboard because it is the cheapest AM4 ATX motherboard I could find, and I'm a big fan of ATX. It gives you a lot of options for expandability that M-ATX just doesn't. Next up is the RAM, and I was trying to look for basically the cheapest RAM I could find, and it may annoy you a little bit, but bear with me. I got a single 8GB stick of 2133 DDR4 from CEX. CEX is a used parts store here in the UK, and there's a very good reason I went used. It cost me £32 for 8GB. The cheapest you can really get 8 gigs at the moment is about £50, or quite often 60. For the graphics card, we got a 3GB GTX 1060. This is the ASUS Dual OC model. It's basically one of their cheaper ones. It's an all-white shroud, 2 fans to keep it nice and cool and quiet at load. Performs fantastic. I was really pleased with this purchase. And it did cost £174, but having a look at what the GPU market is now, with 1060s going for well over £200, I will happily take that 174 offer back then. The storage is a pretty nice setup. I got a 1TB Seagate Barracuda hard drive off of Aria PC for £38, and I paired it with a 120GB Toshiba SSD that I got from CEX with the RAM for only £25. The classic SSD and hard drive combo hits again. I'd really recommend a 120GB SSD because it's plenty of space for all of your programs and your operating system, so you get that fantastic snappy experience in Windows with those great boot times, but for not too much money. For the power supply, I got the XFX XT400, I believe. It's 400 watt power supply, bronze rated, really quite nice. It looks pretty good. It has those flat black cables that's going to make this build look pristine, and it came in at £30. Really solid offer off of Overclockers UK there, and 400 watts is going to be plenty for this system. Also, the base model of this power supply, if you're interested, is a Seasonic design that's then outsourced for production by another company to keep the prices down, so it's actually a pretty solid power supply. For the case, we decided on the Kolink Punisher, and the reason for that was I basically got a few pictures of cases and sent it to the person who the build is for them to choose the one that they liked the best. And when I sent a picture of the Kolink Punisher over, they absolutely loved it, so we went with that. That was basically the end of the discussion for me. It fits everything in, it looks like it's a decent build quality, and they really like the look of it. That is all you need in your case. You're also going to see me throw in a few extra parts that aren't essential, but I threw in anyway just because I had them lying around and I wanted to deliver my friend the best PC I could. So that includes a DVD drive that I threw in just because the case has a stealthy way of incorporating them. I also threw in an extra case fan and an RGB LED strip that I had lying around to give this build some real flair. But we'll talk more about the finished product after we've actually built it. So let's get cracking building this system. No, this is not the recommended way to paint a DVD drive. I know.
Here's another question. Do I give a fuck?
First of all, that case was actually really nice to work in. I would definitely recommend this if you like the look of it, and I'm sure some of you are going to hate it, but if you like the look of it, it is a pretty nice case. The RGB LED strip was a fantastic addition, if I do say so myself. On this case, there is a fan toggle sort of thing, so you press it in and the case fan shut off. So I also wired the 12-volt supply for the RGB strip to a fan header to connect it to that controller. So now when you press that button, all the lights in the system turn off so that you can have it basically in stealth mode. Overclocking was pretty easy. This wasn't the best overclocking motherboard. You don't have manual control, it's only offset control. However, if you're only looking for an average overclock, like I put 3.8 into this CPU, then I'd say it's definitely a nice motherboard. I also overclocked the RAM to 2800 megahertz. So like I said before, we're only running single channel, but we're hoping to offset that by overclocking it a bit. Ryzen definitely likes memory speeds, and dual channel is definitely a good way of getting faster memory. So I would definitely recommend getting two 4GB sticks, ideally of a higher speed. However, don't pay a ridiculous amount more for it because it's not going to be a world-changing increase in performance. I was definitely expecting more out of the graphics card. I only got it to 2088. I think it's just the silicon lottery. I didn't exactly win here. Also, as you might see later if you haven't already, I took the label off of the SSD, even though it did kind of match the theme, which was nice. But I did it because I wanted to do a bit of a custom paint job on the SSD. So I spray painted the person whose PC this is initials onto the front of the SSD, just to give it that nice personal modded touch. I was trying to think of something else to gibber about regarding this build, but nobody wants to hear it. I don't want to try and think about it, so let's move on to the benchmarks. All of them were ran at 1080p because realistically that's what this system was designed for. So let's see how it performs. Well, there we have it. This system just performs fantastic at 1080p. Even at high and very high settings, we were getting 90 FPS plus in most of those titles, which was just such a beautiful and fluid experience. Also, even in PUBG, which isn't very well optimized yet, especially for new hardware I found, Ryzen and the new graphics card generations are definitely going to take a hit here, but we still managed to average over 60 FPS, giving us that 1080p 60 FPS experience that we all know and love. Also, noise and thermals were another excellent point for this system. I would describe it at load reasonably quiet even compared to an average PC. Also, that power supply wasn't noisy at all. Even at load, you couldn't hear it over the CPU and GPU fans, even though they weren't running that loud either. So I definitely recommend this power supply if you're looking at a similar system. Unfortunately, I don't have one of those like reveal videos where I like unveil the PC to the person whose PC it is and they just are completely taken aback and just, oh, look how beautiful it is and stuff. Unfortunately, I don't have one of those, but rest assured they loved their new PC. They also loved the look of it. I actually didn't tell them I put in the RGB LED strip. I left that as a surprise. I also didn't tell them I painted their initials onto the SSD. I left that for a surprise as well. So you can imagine they were pretty taken aback when they saw it, and they've been enjoying the PC ever since. They've been playing a hell of a lot of Grand Theft Auto 5 and Shadow of Mordor, and that was a great feeling, at least for me. I mean, I really enjoyed building the PC, but it's really fantastic to know that they really enjoyed it as well. To know that the person that you designed and built a PC for really enjoys it in every way is just such a wonderful feeling, and I was really happy to build it for them this time around. I think that's it for today, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please go and check out my channel to have a look at some of my other videos. I have a couple of other builds on there, as well as some reviews and tutorials, things like that. So if you're into tech videos, please go and check it out and consider subscribing for more. Also, go down below and rate and comment on this video to tell me what you thought of it. But once again, this has been Frank Yeager with Yeager Tech. See you next time. Last night I actually had a really weird PUBG dream. I mean, that's what I get, right, for playing too much PUBG. But basically, I'm pretty sure it was meant to be real, like I was actually in the game, and there was me and one other guy left, and he was just like coming at me with a butter knife, and I was f***ing terrified of it. It was the weirdest thing.